Hey, this is David. First off, this is a very detail-oriented video with adventures in accounting, so be warned, not so much for entertainment as it is for clarity. That said, here we go. We're about to start a Patreon to fund our continued work on Dreamkeepers. Some might wonder, why do we even need a Patreon? Didn't we just raise a bunch of money on Kickstarter? We sure did. Thanks to the readers, Volume 4 had a massively successful release using the Kickstarter platform in 2015. The campaign topped $80,000 and placed as the 65th most funded comic project in Kickstarter history at its close, despite being passed over as a Kickstarter staff pick. It was done with pure reader muscle. And since you guys pulled it off, I'd like to share a behind-the-scenes breakdown of the costs and results. Illuminating the details might help future creators with their own estimates, and it will hopefully prove that I didn't blow it on blackjack and strippers. So here we go. Looking over here at the graph, total revenue was actually from Kickstarter $81,773. There were a few dropped pledges, and from PayPal $2,167. So the overall was $83,940.41 in revenue. The cost breakdowns, most of the cost went directly to printing books, 42% of the costs, which was $27,000. The bulk of that was to Print Ninja for the offset printing in China, and then we had local printings for some of the other books as well, and the sketchbooks. Merchandise was another larger cost, that was 9%. The merchandise included getting the ceramic mugs for doing the Sharpie stuff on, buying bookmarks, posters, art prints, buttons, magnets, zipper pulls, sticker sheets, sew-on patches. So individually, they all weren't too bad, but they did add up. The figurines are the resin ones that we made, cast by hand, sculpted by hand, painted by hand. They actually were the smallest cost of the whole thing, only 2%. I think most of that actually went into just pure elbow grease. They really felt like a huge chunk of it. The silicone and resin, the raw materials that we actually mixed up, were $684. And we had to buy a bunch of stuff to do the casting, because you don't just take, part A and part B silicone and mix it up in your drinking glasses or your kitchen bowls. You got to actually have something else to mix it in. So we hit the dollar store. We got the cheapest stuff we could, cheapo plastic buckets, plastic cups, plastic forks for mixing stuff. And the cost of all that stuff came to $364. Also included in there, we had to get a Dremel, which is an electronic thing. We use that for kind of like sanding down the final castings, taking off any rough edges from the silicone and the resin. And actually, we had to buy a replacement Dremel because the first one burned out. Even though I was able to repair it like twice, I could not repair it 3 times. So we had to get a couple Dremels in there. That's all within the figurines cost. Also, at 10% we have marketplace fees. Kickstarter itself got $4,088, and that is totally apart from the payment processing fee, which is $2,617. Let's see, we spent $1,860 on advertising during the campaign, and that was necessary to make sure that we got the word out as wide as we could, and, the advertising was a cost, but it did help get that total revenue up higher for us. Also, we had freight and shipping. That was a big chunk, 14% of the total cost. Then it costs a lot of money to get thousands of pounds of books from the other side of the world. We had ocean freight from China, ground freight from the coastline to my apartment, and ground freight from the coastline to Amazon. And we did not pay to have the books lifted up 3 flights of stairs. That was all me, and I bought myself a pizza because, man, I was dead after that. All right, packaging and mailing, that is 16% of our overall costs. I got shipping supplies in bulk from Uline, so big giant boxes of bubble-lined mailers, stuff like that. Getting them in bulk really helped keep the expenses down. But even so, we had to spend $723 on bulk shipping expenses and $254 on incidental stuff from Staples, like tape reloads, bubble wrap, smaller envelopes for the smaller knickknacks and stuff in there. Yeah, a lot of packaging and mailing. And of course, postage was definitely expensive. It is not cheap to mail hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of packages around the world. Postage came to over $9,000. And taxes, I don't actually know for sure what those are, because taxes are a little complicated. They're about, 75,000 pages complicated. But as of now, I'm projecting it'll be about $2,500 that we're going to get hit with. And that's assuming that all of the costs are actually fully deductible, which that's kind of a coin flip. And so if you take all the costs, assume they're deductible, and then assume that we're going to get hit for about 15% of the remaining profits, taxes will be hopefully in the $2,500 range. We'll find out. The end result, after accounting for all costs, is pretty good. We delivered to our backers, Vivid has a nice hefty inventory to work with, and we even managed to make a profit. Not the main objective, but certainly nice. We were left with $19,317. A lot of that profit had to go towards reimbursing our own personal production costs. Towards the end of Volume 4, our salary fund went dry, with about 5 months of production still remaining in the book. I could have gotten a job, but that would have pushed the release date into a murky, distant future. I could have launched the Kickstarter early, but I wanted to have the book done first. So Vivid Publishing floated us a loan, but once the Kickstarter concluded, we had to pay that back. So $11,800 of the profits went towards earlier Volume 4 production costs. The remaining $7,500 lasted us pretty well. We can survive on about $2,000 a month. That covers our current rent, food, utilities, vehicle and medical costs. So those profits covered our time to produce the figurines, manage the print runs, package, and deliver to the backers. Right up to about today. So where does that leave us now? The Kickstarter went great and kept us working strong. But to continue on Dreamkeepers full-time, we'll need some more revenue. Getting regular jobs is one option, of course. To date, that's been Plan A. Throughout most of Dreamkeepers, Liz or I, or both of us, have had regular jobs. And that's fine, it's not a humanitarian disaster, it's just what adults do to pay the rent. The downside, of course, is less time for us to create the series, so book releases take longer. Sometimes a lot longer. Plan B is launching another Kickstarter right away to cover us while we work on Volume 5. But I've got reservations about that. I really do like having a book done and ready to roll when launching pre-orders through a Kickstarter. Kickstarter is really well suited to manufacturing and delivering merchandise. The target-based fundraising format is optimized for that. But when it comes to funding our time during long-term production, that seems to be more the domain of Patreon. The end goal will be to provide us with the time to create Dreamkeepers without delay, and also without rushing the quality. So stay tuned, and we'll see how it goes.